Hey, what is up, guys? Today I'm going to be sharing with you my latest sketchbook that I feel has taken my art in a whole new direction and has finally given me the progress that I've sought for, or at least that's how I feel. And for a little bit of context, I am a self-taught Puerto Rican American artist and aspiring mangaka, and I began on my journey about 3 years ago, so I'm only 3 years into learning, and I still consider myself an amateur by every means, but I've definitely committed to learning fundamentals, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and my goal with this sketchbook tour that I have here is to hopefully inform you guys of some of the mistakes that I've made and how to really structure your learning, or at least like the ways that I feel have best benefited me, because I realize there's a lack of manga resources out there, in the West at least, and I want to build a community that keeps giving back to each other, so we can really bring manga to a whole new level in the West. Those are big dreams, but I definitely want to make a cool manga community around me, and I definitely want to make a shonen manga in the future. So this is just some context of where I started this year, and this is one of my earlier sketchbooks. I'm not gonna flip through the entire thing. I just wanted to show where my designing from imagination was at when I started this year, and where it's at now. Granted, I don't draw a lot from imagination still, but I feel way more confident in actually tackling that after putting some things into practice. So this is Marsh, my OC, from my future manga seeds, and it's gonna be a one-shot for a shonen manga, and I don't want to spoil too much, but he's gonna have some plant powers that are basically the result of this flower blooming within him, and a lot of the people in this world are probably gonna have power structure from these flowers that bloom during certain conditions within them. And these are just some concept sketches. There's nothing final. I'm just trying to show you where I was at with this. It's kind of awkward to position this here, so maybe I'll just show this here. And I'm just trying to have some fun because I don't really draw from memory too much or imagination at that time, and I realized if I want to be a mangaka, I have to do that. And that was the first sketchbook I was working on this year, and this is my next one. This is Marsh. This is a point in time when I drew him in the middle of it. And just for reference, I actually do a bunch of random things in here. I do draw from memory as well. Let me see. Now, this is my older sketchbook. I'm gonna show a few pages just to show you guys what I was doing. And I spent a lot of time drawing from realism in the sketchbook during my commutes in the subway. Let's see. I was practicing Peter Hand's dynamic Bible approach. I bought that from the Super Annie website. I really love his methodology. That's about it for that sketchbook. And then the latest sketchbook is my mid 2021 to October 2021 sketchbook, and I feel like this is where I had the most growth, and this is why I kind of want to make a sketchbook tour on this sketchbook, just to show you guys how I got to this point, and where I foresee this taking me, and why it was important for me in my growth in my artistic journey, what kind of realizations I made along the way for the sketchbook. So yeah, without further ado, let me just start at the beginning. And sorry about the messiness in this. You're gonna see that a lot of the sketchbook is oriented differently. I have some vertical pages. Or eventually I settle on landscape, but you're gonna have to bear with me here. Sorry about that. And this is my first page. I didn't really know what to do with it, so I just did some perspective exercises really quick because I was watching Kuzomari, who is a phenomenal YouTuber and mangaka, and I feel like he actually has some of the best tutorials out there for a Western audience to learn about the manga creation process. He's really gone about and dissected a lot of information and presents it handily for people who really want to know manga. And this is the next page. This is where basically in this sketchbook I decided I was sick of how I drew my anime figures from my head, and I realized that my invention process needed a lot of work, and I for some reason was disconnecting from the fundamentals that I was learning, like drawing from perspective and simple forms. And uncovering Kuzomari's channel made me really realize that basically you don't have to be so rigid in like the technicality and trying to be like too realistic. Completely this one here, and I like this one a lot. These are more head references. You're gonna see me do a ton of heads, like just over and over from every angle, using Kuzomari's approach and from reference. And then I kind of realized I was still drawing from reference too much, but I was trying to use it as a basis to learn how to simplify the head into a cube, and I was really struggling with it at first. Like you'll see here, I drew the head, and I drew the head above the square, and then I drew it within the square, and it just looked wonky a lot of times. A lot of these are still wonky, and I'm trying to iron out the kinks there, and I was trying to make it natural, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to really, correct your mistakes here. So I have some ratios, and then I tried, this is kind of the first time I really actually put it into the perspective grid and try to really do it from my head to simplify it. And this is actually the most important thing that I realized throughout this book is you want to break down the anatomy of the mannequin into simple structures like that and put it in the grid so you can draw it from your head. And then that's what really will allow you to have simple forms. And I'm sorry my hands are covering pages. But yeah, there's more heads here. Maybe I should speed through this a little bit. It's kind of a little more boring, but you'll see I start really experimenting with it in the grid. And I'm starting to actually like some of the heads that I'm doing thanks to the approach from Kuzomari. So I focused on putting it in one point at first because one point is easier to handle. There's less convergence. There's only one set of lines that you have to really worry about, since all the verticals go down straight pretty much. And here's just more. A lot of these I did in my commute. I'd practice on my commute. I'd wake up early on my work days to practice this. Because I do have a job outside of art, but I'm pretty blessed to be able to practice this consistently. And I do have a lot of time to practice with art, even though I am part of the workforce unrelated to art. But I'm very grateful. And then after, I'll go back to that in a second here. These are more heads. So you can see I'm starting to simplify it. I'm not even drawing the eyes, because I kept trying to draw the eyes and the head, and I realized, I need to be able to actually just draw the head simply first, and then I can worry about putting the eyes. I can really just focus on the eye part second. And here I was like, okay, I need to actually see what I can do with all this information here and just draw from my head once again. And I did a marsh really quick, and I was actually enjoying it a little bit. I did feel weird about it, especially the proportions from this marsh. Feels really wonky. I always end up very unsatisfied with my proportions for Marsh, just because I want him to be more of like, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like with a Jose type of like character proportions. So like younger, like shorter, just like cool looking. You know, like if you picture like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, like those kind of characters that are like Hunter x Hunter, you know, like gone from there. It's more of the idea that I have for him. And of course I'll draw him older as well in the manga, because I do plan on making him get older and stuff. But yeah, and these are some tutorial pages from Kuzomari's Patreon and stuff. And I'm not going to show you too much of that because I feel like he really does a great service for us, and his Patreon is definitely worth buying. It's going to be a lot of heads, guys. I warned you in advance. It's a lot of repetition. A lot of repetition, but I feel the result will speak for itself here. Like, this marsh is so much better than the one I just drew a couple pages ago from that, and I feel like I'm really starting to feel myself after all these heads. I think I probably drew heads like I don't even want to know, maybe a few hundred, 1,000 times in this book. I don't know. I was really, focused on trying build that muscle memory. And then here are some draftsmanship exercises. I was sick of feeling unconfident with my lines, and these are some dynamic Bible exercises here where you draw a straight line over and you ghost the lines. And I also heard that if you draw lines that are parallel to each other and try to keep them in the same consistency when they're parallel, it's a really good exercise for building draftsmanship. So I tried that, and I started doing those daily. I do have this whole pile. So on top of this sketchbook, I actually did draftsmanship exercises every single day. And maybe I hope that it shows through my line work in this. And I did it for like a warm up for like an hour a day. So I did like straight lines, curved lines, all that sort of thing. This is a lot of freaking heads. And then I finally got to this page, and I felt like I made a significant amount of progress with my heads, and they felt so much better than what I was able to do before. Some of these are studies from like Tenchi Muyo. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that anime. It's a rom-com from the 90s. It's pretty good, actually. From what I remember, I haven't rewatched it or anything. And then these are some animes just from my head. Well, this one. These are all from my head. These are from like reference here. This one too. And I love them. And okay, so now I went back to the perspective because I kind of lost track of myself, and I was just drawing them with arbitrary perspective. I needed to remind myself about perspective, and I did this on top. I meant to basically go through all of Kuzo's tutorials for learning how to draw from my mind and inventing, and these are just like quick perspective guides that he did. 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, and he went over the importance of being able to draw simple forms in the grid. So I really focused on these for quite a bit of pages, did it every day, and I would remind myself, a lot of what he stressed was being able to do this consistently and building upon your knowledge. So you would go the next day and revisit, and the next day revisit and test your knowledge to see how much stuck with you. A lot of this is stacking forms, cylinders, boxes, and perspective, and you would stack them together. So I focused on 1 point first. I really tried to get my 1 points to feel natural for me, and it's weird to like it's weird to describe when you approach that level of confidence for yourself, but you'll know when you hit that. These are I put at first I put the draftsmanship exercises in here, not all of them, but I did do some in here, and I was like, I don't want to waste my pages on this in my sketchbook. I kind of just want it all to be dedicated to this new path that I'm doing here. So I did do that, and then eventually I did end up using printer paper where I have a bunch of those. And maybe I'll just show that then later on. As you can see, I'm revisiting the perspective, a lot of cubes, and then these are some anime from my head. Every day I would work on this, and I made sure to build momentum and really just not go forward until I really understood what I was doing with these. And you can see that a lot of times it's from my head without looking at reference too, and I started feeling pretty good. Of course, the eyes could always be better and stuff, and there's some inadequacies about it that I would want iron out, but it's okay. And I'm not even halfway through this, so I'm gonna like speed through this a little more because I don't want the video to be too long. So you'll see a lot of redundant exercises here. And then after I did all that, simple forms, rotated forms, stacking forms, adding the basic cubes to each other and stuff like that, I started to play with the proportions a little more, ratios a little more, and I started to just try to do it better from my head. And this is 2 point. I finally moved on to 2 points after and here's just more warm-ups. I don't know at what point I started doing the draftsmanship stuff every morning for warm-up. I guess it's a little bit later than this. You'll stop seeing those pages eventually. And then with this, I drew this on the train, the subway, and I was actually really proud of it. I felt like it was the first time I really focused on like the mood and like expression of drawing him in a way that really came out how I wanted him to, and the stylization. This is my favorite drawing of Marsh that I've done. It's very close to the ratio that I want him to be, and you'll see that I mess it up a lot. I don't know how to do that. At this point, I hadn't studied the rest of the figure, so I was kind of just winging it. And this is my my lovely girlfriend's character, who is very, very cute. She has really good art. She draws really cute stuff. She's very, very skilled as well. Some more of these from the grid. You'll see that they're actually in the grid itself, and I started doing them in 2 point. More in 2 point, and you can actually see the horizontal line and the vanishing points all here. Did it over and over and over. I was very unsatisfied with how I did it, but that's the process. You're gonna mess up a lot, and even at this point, I've studied the head a lot. I've studied the skull, I've studied the muscles of the head, and I still mess up with the head a lot. So it went to show me that like even thinking of it simply was hard. And then I started making headway to the torsos using Kuzo's approach. And it was a simple polygonal structure here. And then I started placing them in the grids. And I think this is the last of the heavy focus on the heads for a little bit. I do revisit it from time to time in here. I was really trying to get it all together here. And these are more based on more tutorials and stuff like that. And you can see in this like more rudimentary step, the polygonal structure was just, I was thinking of how it stacked. But I wasn't thinking about how it tilted in space, and you'll see me eventually fix that in the future. These are more based on his tutorials, which I highly recommend. Again, and you can see I love how he breaks it down so simply. It's just a sphere, and then there's like this T-pose for the pelvis, and then this like simple blocky shape for the rib cage structure, and then the neck popping out of that. And I even isolated those areas as well, just to be thorough. And I had to deal with some interesting phenomenon that occurred every time I moved on from the place that I started to feel comfortable, or I felt a little more confidence with, in isolation. And it was like I would move on to a subject and I would get like bored, and it was like this Dunning-Kruger effect where I was like, I've done this before, I feel like I can do it easily. Like, not easily, but like, it's tough to explain, but basically like I just couldn't bring myself to enjoy the first few days of doing that new task or isolated study area. But yeah, eventually I think I got over it and got into the flow of things. And sorry, I cut off kind of arbitrarily there. Let's see if everything fits in the screen here. Yeah, so I kind of lost I lost like 10 minutes of recording my sketchbook here, but that's fine. I'll go over the rest of it now. Hopefully you guys are learning a bit from this, and I'm sorry for all the jankiness and just like how it's coming together. This is my first video. Hopefully I get better at it with time. But yeah, thank you guys for watching so far. And I was getting back to this. I really enjoyed this marsh. I enjoyed this page. I felt like I made a lot of progress here. And then from here, I just started studying even more torsos and really trying to cement my knowledge from my head, and really trying to cement the perspective and the simple forms. Really going back to it over and over and over and over again and over again. Because even now, I feel like this isn't good enough. Like a lot of this, I'm having a lot of issues still. Sometimes they come out all right, but a lot of times they're not coming out as good as I want them to. So that's why you'll see even like I'm just repeating it to death, basically. And I think it's worth it in the end. You'll see it coming together more and more, like this marsh page here. And I was coming home from work this day, and I was tired, but even then, when I was tired, I still did this page, and I was proud of it. I was proud of these drawings, and maybe this, this face came out weird, and the eyes came out weird, and the muscle anatomy is a little weird, but I keep doing that. I will improve that with time. I will make it simpler and look more boyish in nature for a younger person in shonen manga. I just have to iron out those kinks, It comes with a lot of time. But it's alright to have the muscle structure. Maybe I should just work on more adultish proportions first. This is what I was kind of working on there. But, it's kind of conflicting, because I'm trying to work on a young character on the mannequin as well as an older character. So maybe that kind of messes with me a little bit. And these are more heads. I went back to it, just trying to repeat and really cement what I know from memory, just checking my memory where it's at, doing more eyes, trying to see what kind of eyes I like for Marsh. I like these a lot. This one looked weird. I was trying to mess with the hairstyle of Marsh there. And I wanted to make it look more unique a little bit. We'll see. More torsos, connecting it together, really bringing it together. I felt like a lot of my issues when I was bringing the torso and the head together had to do with how it stacked, like how it overlaid on each other, how the neck protruded out, and how the neck fit into the torso and the head at the same time. Just connecting it together just added this weird layer of complexity. You wouldn't really anticipate it, even though it's just a cylinder, and like just the depth itself, like I felt really uncomfortable with how it sat, and the length as well. So that's why I'm repeating it over and over. I'm trying to correct it and get a sense of how the head actually sits on there in the grid. And you'll see it's like getting a little bit better over time here. The neck is really freaking long. These are better. It's getting better over time slowly. I'm trying the full mannequin. And this is where I start actually trying the full mannequins out for once. And again, I don't depart from isolating and practicing, but I start chunking it a little bit into once I feel a little more comfortable, and see what I can do from that. And I really like this head that I drew here. I feel like there's progress there. More. Oh, sorry, I'm going back. I'm losing myself because of the orientation, so I'm really sorry, guys, but yeah, that's how it goes. So you'll see here that I'll mess with colors, color code it. I'll try to really visualize the basic shapes first and build on it layer by layer, just to really cement that knowledge and cement that perspective and form. And this is pretty much, you see 1017, so it's fairly recent. And here I feel like I actually was really pretty proud of this page, even though the style is not what I liked. I feel like it's functional. Like, finally I think this is actually functional, usable mannequins and stuff, and I can always iron out the kinks, simplify more, and just change the ratios and stuff like that as I get better and get focus on eyes. I want to focus on eyes way more. I want more unique eyes, because I feel like that matters so much. And then I moved on to arms. I was really trying to push along and not get too fixated on one area, because that's my tendency is just to do one thing for months and months and months. And I just wanted to get to a point where I can work on my manga soon, you know. And I feel like I was starting to get to that point. Well, not starting to, but I feel like I'm reaching that point where I can use mannequins, and I have a plan, which is basically get my mannequins to a functional level where I can just plop them in perspective and really focus on the camera angles and and then move on from there and really focus on mood and storytelling and stuff like that when I'm composing shots, which I think matters the most, you know, outside of just the aesthetics. This is studies of Yo-Yo Shinari. I was trying to work on my eyes some more and just see how he breaks it down, and I love this panty and stocking. He's so good. He's everyone knows who Yo-Yo Shinari is, and I still feel like he's underrated. He's just a phenomenal artist with just a complete mastery of all the fundamentals. He's an animator for Studio Trigger, and all those guys that work for Studio Trigger are so good, like incredible artists. Just to name a few: Kai Ikarashi, Hiroyuki Imaishi. Like, I follow Kai Ikarashi on Twitter, and he posts amazing art. And Imaishi, I have his art book, and he's so good. He makes some crazy, like, gestural, dynamic poses, and it's just amazing to watch. You guys should definitely check them out. If you like anime art, if you like shonen genre, they are really great artists. And hopefully I can take from them what I can. And then I moved on to the legs here, and this is from my head. So a lot of this is from reference and from head, and then cross-referencing to kind of iron out the kinks. And I was actually getting to a point sometimes where I draw anime heads, and I'm actually really fond of them now. Not completely, but like, I feel so much better about them. I don't want to like cringe when I look at the page. Here I separated the pelvis first, worked on it in the grid, and we really worked on the every kind of convergence, every angle that I could work in that grid. And 1 point and then 2 point comes later. Always reinforcing what I know, practicing that perspective, the basic forms in that perspective, and then going back to anatomy. I didn't really like these at all, but I'm just showing them anyway. It's part of the sketchbook, it's part of the growth, it's part of the journey. More legs. I had to do that. The legs, I feel like basically they're one of my most troublesome areas, and I just did not feel confident doing them, how they layered over each other. And maybe it's just the perfectionist in me, just never satisfied with the result of what I'm doing. I'm slowly learning to get past that and move to a more functional approach, constantly reminding myself of that while using Kuzomari's approach. I just need to work on getting something that's usable to draw characters from memory. That's it. And separating them and bringing it together, seeing where I'm at, just drawing from my head. And more of these, more legs, more perspective, practicing the cylinders, how they stack, really trying to figure out how those basic shapes of the legs really come together and how I can show them underneath the pelvic structure, and thinking about it in multiple ways. You see, as a simple cylinder, as a what do you call it? Like a tweaked form of the cylinder here, where you kind of just morph it a little bit. And I use Kuzomari's figures here as a reference right here. I'm just really trying to make that next level up. And here's some refreshers, some more legs. I use looking at Kuzo's art and doing some of that, drawing some from my memory. I'm not really fond of these anime heads. I feel like, I don't know, I'm regressing a little bit there. And I feel like it's always like a constant back and forth as you're learning. Like, you'll make art that you're not fond of, and you'll make art that you're fond of, and it might not be that much further from your current skill level. This page I really enjoyed doing. The inking I found I really love, actually, and I just had, I drew this. I was drawing from my head and seeing where I was at after all those studies. From memory, and really trying to think of the forms in a basic manner, and I was happy with the result of this. I feel like this is my best march yet, expression wise, and just how it came together with all of the inking and stuff. And these are some more studies, more basic shapes. I tried different levels of proportions and ratios for the heads as well. Like, this more adultish, this more josei, like younger kid, like 11, 10, 12. So I know I need a variety of ages and head structures for my anime. So eventually I will get wilder with that, hopefully. More studies. I knew I had to work on head some more, so I did it there. And this is more Kuzo studies. This is from my head, this is from my head. This is from my head, trying to put it together, and I just keep cross-referencing, anime and Kuzo and Sketchfab, because Sketchfab has like really good models, 3D models, and I feel like it actually helps because you can just change the angle and really see how things stack in depth. And it really helps. And more legs, focusing more on legs, a little bit of heads, just going back and forth. And then I just try and move on a little bit and push myself. I know you can't just stay at one point. You have to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing as you're acquiring, but also isolating areas and really focusing on that as much as you can. And I actually kind of liked these. I was looking at Kuzo's thing again. I did reference him a lot towards the end here, just because I'm trying to get my mannequin as stylish as possible, and I love how he draws it. So more legs, some Kuzo studies here, more in perspective grids, simplified shapes, focusing on how the depth works, so I can stack it properly here, and in perspective here, because there's a lot of nuance to how the legs stack on each other, how the cylinders stack on each other. There's just a few pages left, and it's just more practicing like full figure, more legs, I really have to work on how things stack together. I realize, and the ratios and the proportions, that really matters a lot. So that bringing it all together is a skill in itself. It's really hard, and it requires a lot of practice. But I know from here, it's like once I get this down better, I can actually just once I'm comfortable with it, I can draw characters in perspective pretty much, and from there, the sky's the limit. And I just have to work on stylization and stuff, which will come with time. Now I don't really draw women. So I definitely gotta draw women more. These look kind of weird to me, but it's okay. And yeah, so the last page. And I know it wasn't the most beautiful sketchbook in the world, but I feel like it actually did cement the concepts that I was trying to study, which is basically, figuring out a very simple mannequin, and then I can take that and add complexity over time as I get better as an artist and study more. But really just going to rudimentary forms and cementing the perspective, because I just need to be able to draw from memory and invent. That's the only thing you really need to be fast as a mangaka and meet those tight deadlines that they have where they draw a chapter a week and stuff like that. So that's my main goal right now, and I definitely feel like I'm heading in the direction that I need to. With that said, that brings us to the end of my sketchbook, and I'm glad that I've shared this with you guys, and I hope you've taken from it whatever I could have given you. I want to take you guys along with my full journey going forward. I plan on releasing, working on Seeds in the near future, and I'll be learning about manga making as I go, because Seeds will be my first big project. I know it's not going to be perfect, and I know that you're going to need to make a lot of iterations of manga until you're comfortable, storytelling in a manga form, because there's so many concepts to juggle, from perspective to composition to form, value. You have to work with inking and draftsmanship, all these things, and on top of the written components of it. It's a lot of skills at once, and I think that's where all the fun is really going to lie for me. I do struggle with some boredom from time to time when I'm studying, but I try to just, tread through it. And yeah, thanks guys. I will see you next time. Subscribe if you like my content. I'll be looking to make more weekly updates, weekly videos, and just keep you guys posted on my progress and try to teach you guys as I go. So good luck on your journeys as well, guys, and thank you again. Peace out.